There was normally only one sacred blood creature on one mystery island. Han Sen did not worry he might run into any danger and sat down on a tree where he could watch the sacred blood creature, waiting for the three to come. In less than half an hour, the three persons had arrived, faster than Han Sen had thought. The three also saw the angel-like humanoid creature and reacted the same way Han Sen did. They stopped far from the creature and did not dare to approach. "Dollar, come out. Let's talk." Son of Heaven stepped back and called after consulting with Thumb and Huangfu Pingqing. Obviously, they were also terrified of that creature and were also worried that Han Sen might take advantage of them.
Han Sen ignoreerde them.
Half a day had passed, and Son of Heaven did not dare to go into the mountains. "Dollar, let us talk. None of us can profit from this if we do nothing." Son of Heaven was worried. If it was some other sacred blood beast soul, he would probably let go. However, a humanoid sacred blood beast soul was very rare. If he missed this one, he might never see another in his lifetime. After he evolved and entered Second God's Sanctuary, it would be even harder for him to get a humanoid beast soul. So even if Son of Heaven hated Dollar, he still asked to work with the guy. Han Sen pondered and flapped his wings to come out. Son of Heaven knew that he was here, so the young master would never touch the sacred blood creature. Thus, Han Sen had little to gain from it. "Son of Heaven, say it if you want something from me," exclaimed Han Sen from afar. "Dollar, I will offer you $50 million to help me kill the creature, but the beast soul must be mine," said Son of Heaven. "I will give you $50 million for the beast soul." Son of Heaven held back his curse and said, "What would you want in return for this beast soul? Name your price." "One sacred blood beast soul," Han Sen said. "Dollar, I am only getting a sacred blood beast soul by killing this creature. Don't you feel that you're too greedy?" Son of Heaven wanted to kill Han Sen at that moment. "I do not have to tell you the value of a humanoid sacred blood beast soul, right? Dollar, a humanoid beast soul is indeed precious, but you are asking for too much. How about we both compromise? We will offer $100 million for the beast soul." Huangfu Pingqing smiled sensually and said, "I am not interested in money. A sacred blood beast soul, or may the best man or woman win. You decide," Han Sen said decisively. "Since you do not know your place, I will have to teach you." Son of Heaven suddenly growled and moved to attack Han Sen. Huangfu Pingqing also summoned her bow and arrows and shot 7 arrows at Han Sen at the same time. Han Sen decided not to waste time on them and flew away. However, there was no wind on the island and Han Sen was not fast enough to lose them. Huangfu Pingqing's arrows also distracted Han Sen and slowed him down. "Son of Heaven, if you promise to give me a sacred blood beast soul now, it is not too late. Otherwise you will regret it," exclaimed Han Sen. "My only regret is not killing you earlier," said Son of Heaven, gritting his teeth. "Then you will continue to live with regret," Han Sen laughed. Suddenly, Han Sen changed his direction and rushed to where the creature was. The rest were dumbstruck. Thumb slowed down and said, "He went after the creature. Should we follow him?" Son of Heaven said, "Do not slow down. Follow him. That bastard would never go risk his life. He is only trying to lose us." Thumb felt it was a reasonable explanation. Dollar could never be so stupid that he would hand his life over to the sacred blood creature. The three were following Han Sen as close as they could, but soon they felt that something was wrong. Han Sen went all the way to the mountain and did not intend to change direction or stop. "Brother, it feels weird. We should stop," said Huangfu Pingqing. Son of Heaven also felt that and gradually slowed down, but it was too late. Han Sen had already gone into the mountain. When he was 300 feet from the sacred blood creature, it suddenly opened its eyes, golden lightning bolts shining in its pupils and blonde hair dancing in the air. A sword as gorgeous as a diamond was also drawn from the rock. Spreading its wings, the creature flew up and threw itself at Han Sen. Han Sen moved towards the three at full speed. They suddenly understood that he was trying to force them to fight the creature. "Shameless bastard! Let's run!" cried the Son of Heaven. "No way. We cannot make it. The creature is faster than we are," Thumb said calmly. "We should work together to kill Dollar first," said Son of Heaven, seeing Han Sen was only 50 feet from them. The sacred blood creature had come behind Han Sen and slashed at him with its sword. Shape-shifting into the bloody slayer, Han Sen summoned his mutant spear and used it to block the sword. Crack! As a mutant weapon, the spear was cut into halves by the diamond sword. Shocked, Han Sen threw himself at the three. The three wanted to attack Han Sen, but was all appalled by how powerful the creature was. All of a sudden, Han Sen was already in front of them. When they were ready to attack Han Sen, he stopped less than 15 feet from them and turned to face the sacred blood creature. Having summoned his chopper, he used it to parry with the sacred blood creature. The chopper was a commonly seen beast soul weapon, so he was not worried that people might tell who Dollar was from it. Crack! The chopper was also cut in half by the diamond sword. Han Sen fell to the ground and dodged the sword of the creature. Now the sacred blood creature was faced with the other three. Without hesitation, the creature cut to Thumb, who was closest to it, with its sword. Thumb gritted his teeth and used his sacred blood shield to block the diamond sword. Ding! Thumb was forced back more than 50 feet before he could stop himself in the air. With a roar, he shape-shifted into a giant bear more than 9 feet tall. With his shield in one hand and his broadsword in the other, Thumb ran toward the sacred blood creature. He exclaimed, "Dollar, now if we work together, we will have a chance to kill it. If you run away right now, if we could not gain any benefit, we will not leave anything to you." Just now when fighting with Han Sen, Thumb did not really want him dead. After all, he held no grudge against Han's senator. All Son of Heaven offered was a discount, and that was not worth risking his life. "Come to the ground. We are not its match in the air," Han Sen cried while flying to the ground. Son of Heaven and the rest also knew that the flying speed of the creature was too fast for them to keep up with, so they followed Han Sen to the ground. Thumb was the last to follow. Using his sacred blood shape-shifting beast soul and sacred blood shield, he barely blocked the creature's sword. All four of them were now on the ground. They all took back their wings and shape-shifted into different creatures to attack the sacred blood angel-like creature. Han Sen had seen the strength of sacred blood creatures. He knew that with his own power, he could never kill the creature. The only chance was to collaborate with the three. He also had to try to kill the creature while they were still able to shapeshift, because the angel-like creature was too strong. Thumb was now a giant bear. Using his shield, he was fighting the creature head-on. Deep marks were left by the diamond sword on the sacred blood shield. Son of Heaven had turned himself into a huge lion. Huang Fu Pingqing did not shapeshift, but was shooting arrows from far away to limit the range of motion of the creature. Without a humanoid shapeshifting beast soul, she would not be able to use the weapon she was best at if she chose to shapeshift. Although all four of them were attacking the creature, they still did not cause much damage. Han Sen found a chance to cut at the creature, but his mutant dagger did not even break its armor. "Damn it, without a sacred blood weapon, I could never kill this creature."
Han Sen felt depressed.
All he needed right now was a sacred blood weapon. It was such a shame that he had not bought the three-blade harpoon. Otherwise, he would not be so helpless right now. "Carry on. My shape-shifting would not last very long," exclaimed Thumb as he was blocking the blows from the creature. Most attacks from the creature were handled by Thumb. If his shield were not sacred blood, it would have been broken 1,000 times. Son of Heaven was also worried. Had he not given Luo Tianyang his sacred blood 8 beast soul, which were ruined by Han Sen, he could do much better. Now with the lion beast soul, he could not use weapons after shapeshifting, so he could not commit his full strength. The three men could all last around 2 hours with shapeshifting. As time went by, they could not hurt the creature whatsoever. "We could not keep doing this. Someone lend me a sacred blood weapon," Han Sen had to ask. Without a sacred blood weapon, all he could do was to distract the creature. There was no chance he could cause any damage, and their shapeshifting time was almost up. But none of the rest responded. It was a great risk to transfer a sacred blood beast soul to Han's senator, who could tell if he would run away the moment he got the beast soul. Even if he did not run, no one was willing to see him killing the creature. "Since we could not beat it, we should go home." Running out of shape-shifting time, Han Sen turned away to leave the Mystery Island. Without Han Sen, the rest could never beat the creature. With Thumb's defense, they also left the Mystery Island. The sacred blood creature of Mystery Island would not leave the island. So after they left, the sacred blood creature went back to the tree on that mountain. The plan to besiege the sacred blood creature had failed. After some discussion, the three went back to the shelter, because they did not believe that Han Sen would go find the creature alone. That creature was not something an individual could kill. Impressive. The beast soul of this creature must be amazing. Han Sen went back to the Mystery Island after dark. He needed to kill this creature, otherwise his katana and 2 mutant weapons would have been ruined for nothing. In fact, he had one sacred blood weapon, which was the sacred blood butterfly boomerang. However, it was a one-off weapon. If he did not have to, Han Sen would not use it. If it were any other sacred blood creature, Han Sen would not use the sacred blood butterfly boomerang. After all, it would be a huge waste since no one could guarantee he would gain a beast soul from a creature. However, the sacred blood creature from the Mystery Island would definitely yield a beast soul. In addition, it also had a sacred blood gear, which was way better than the golden axe of the Bloody Slayer, which was too heavy to carry around and less sharp. Even he could not bring the sword out of God's sanctuary, he would be able to sell it at a great price. If he could kill this creature, he could gain both a beast soul and a gear. So even if he were to use his sacred blood butterfly boomerang, it would be a great deal. Going back to the mountain, Han Sen saw the sacred blood creature under the tree, its hands still on the hilt of the diamond sword and its eyes closed again. He did not have time to pay attention in daytime. Now, under moonlight and starlight, he noticed how gorgeous this creature was. It was definitely a she. The jade armor covered her body, yet still showed off her long legs and curves. The white wings and long wavy hair accentuated her beautiful facial features. Pretty yet aloof, she was really like an angel. Had he not seen how well she fought, Han Sen would even be reluctant to hurt such a beautiful creature. She is so strong. I only have one chance. If I don't succeed, I might not even be able to escape. Han Sen was considering which beast soul he should use. A sacred blood beast soul armor would not be enough. It might keep him alive, but what he needed now was to kill the creature. The Fairy Queen was summoned. Han Sen's body was covered in red armor, and the ruby crown appeared on his head. His black hair became blonde. Han Sen also summoned the horn bow and mutant black stinger arrow. Han Sen was confident in his ability to hide his intentions, but when he aimed at the creature, she suddenly opened her eyes full of golden lightning bolts. Whoosh! The diamond sword was drawn from the rock and cut at Han Sen. Han Sen did not shoot the black stinger arrow. He did not dare to. Once the arrow was cut by the sword, it would be ruined. This arrow had cost Han Sen a lot of efforts, and Han Sen would not want it to be ruined like the mutant spear and chopper. Watching the sacred blood creature approaching him, he felt she did not seem as fast as she was. The ability of the Fairy Queen had turned the actions of the creature into slow motion in his eyes. Watching the sword cutting at himself, Han Sen suddenly took back his bow and arrow and made an incredibly fast move. Spartacle, the footwork that Han Sen had been working hard on, was eventually put to use. Even the sacred blood creature's sword was not fast enough to follow his body. Instead of stepping back, Han Sen narrowed the distance between him and the creature. The sacred blood butterfly boomerang appeared in Han Sen's hand and was thrown at the creature. With an unlikely trajectory, the boomerang approached the creature in the blink of an eye and was about to cut her throat. However, even at such a short distance, the sacred blood creature was still able to take back her sword and slash it at the butterfly boomerang. The moment before the sword touched the boomerang suddenly made an incredible dive and then cut the creature's throat from below. Boom! The horrifying blue fire exploded and covered the entire body of the sacred blood creature. It almost looked like she was going through a nirvana. This angel was not a friendly one. Bathing in fire, she was still trying to attack Han Sen. Using both Fairy Queen and Spartacle, Han Sen was able to dodge all her attacks. In fact, the creature's speed and strength were no longer comparable to before because of her injury. She gradually slowed down, and her sword fell to the ground with a clank. Her body turned into lights and scattered like fireflies. Sacred blood creature Holy Angel killed. Beast soul of sacred blood Holy Angel gained. Meat inedible. She really is an angel. Han Sen was excited. He was not too surprised by the fact that the meat was edible. He had read before online that the sacred blood creatures on the Mystery Island were most likely inedible. Wrapping the diamond sword with the cloth he had prepared, Han Sen left the Mystery Island in the dark. Son of Heaven must still be thinking how to kill the holy angel. There is no way that he would know that I've killed it. I'm really curious to see his face when he has prepared everything and find no creature there. Han Sen returned to Steel Armor Shelter in a great mood. Putting the diamond sword on the table, he couldn't wait to check out his newly gained beast soul of Holy Angel. A teenage girl with long dark hair stood barefoot in front of Han Sen, wearing a white dress, her eyes blinking.
Beast soul pate.
Another one. Looking at the Holy Angel in the form of a pretty little girl, Han Sen did not know how to react. This was such a big change. She had lost her wings and halo. You could not even tell that she was an angel. There was nothing fearful about her, and she looked just like a cute human girl. Despite her cuteness, she could not fight at all. He did not even know how long it would take for a sacred blood beast soul pet to transform. Fortunately, Han Sen also had gained sacred blood gear, the diamond sword. Otherwise, he would be very upset. After all, he had traded one katana, 2 mutant weapons, and a sacred blood butterfly boomerang for the sacred blood pet. One thing was for sure. The sacred blood holy angel was worth a lot of money. Sacred blood pets were rare. And a pet as cute as this one, which looked almost exactly like a human, could be sold at a great price, maybe even higher than the price of any practical sacred bloods. Can you talk? Han Sen looked at the holy angel and asked. She looked so much like a pretty human girl. The holy angel widened her eyes and smiled at him, looking innocent. Seeing that she could not talk, Han Sen took her back and took up the gorgeous diamond sword. The diamond sword was like an ice sculpture and was slightly heavier than a steel sword. Han Sen waved the sword around and thought it was very smooth to use. What a great sword! It is very much worth what it has cost me. Han Sen felt more and more at ease waving the sword around, thinking it was easier to use than the katana. As for the sharpness and toughness of the sword, there was no question, since it could cut through his sacred blood armor. Even the sacred blood shield of thumbs was left with deep marks, whereas the sword itself was still intact. It was easy to imagine how good it was. It is such a shame that the sword could not be taken back like a sacred blood beast soul. I could only carry it with me and use it here in God's sanctuary, Han Sen thought. The sword had a very memorable look. Since Son of Heaven, Huangfu Pingqing and Thumb had all seen it, it would be a lot of trouble if he wanted to use it in the future. He could only use it when he pretended to be Dollar. Otherwise, any of them could guess that Han Sen was Dollar. Leaving God's sanctuary, Han Sen's comlink immediately rang. Seeing Huangfu Pingqing's number, Han Sen bristled. It was because of this woman that his girlfriend was still mad at him. Having answered the call, he wanted to talk some sense into Huangfu Pingqing, teaching her right from wrong. While he just opened his mouth, he was rendered speechless. Huangfu Pingqing was in a bubble bath, covered under foam. He could only see her arms and the top of her globes, which still made his heart race. "Brother Han, am I interrupting something?" as she asked. She lifted one of her legs and started to caress it. Han Sen felt his nose was about to bleed. He touched his nose and said seriously, "Miss Huangfu Pingqing, do you need me for something? If not, I have to go." Han Sen could not help throwing another glance at her leg. "Of course I need you. Did you know that there is a mystery island floating above the steel armor shelter now?" Huangfu Pingqing smiled sensually. "Of course I know that, but I could never go up there since I do not have sacred blood wings."
Han Sen bekam nervös.
"That's a problem easy to solve. I can lend you a flying beast soul." Huangfu Pingqing turned around in the water and moved closer to the comlink. Looking at the close-up of her white globes, he was about to explode. Han Sen said hurriedly, "Don't joke with me. Why would you lend me such a precious sacred blood? I am not joking. If you want it, you can come and get it right now. My door is open," Huangfu Pingqing said, blinking. "You could say what you want here and now." Han Sen did not believe Huangfu Pingqing would be so generous. "Since you won't come over, we should find somewhere to discuss. How about the cafeteria in Section A?" Huang Fu Pingqing said. No, I'd rather talk in the shelter. Since this was breakfast time, if someone saw Huang Fu Pingqing and him together, he could never prove his innocence. Although Huang Fu Pingqing was sexy and as pretty as Ji Yanran was more Han Sen's type. Huang Fu Pingqing was too cunning. Even though she looked great, it was tiring to talk to her. Shutting down his comlink, Han Sen went back to Steel Armor Shelter and waited for Huang Fu Pingqing at their agreed place. Huang Fu Pingqing was not a bimbo. On the contrary, she was smarter than anyone he knew. When she first came to Steel Armor Shelter, she pretended not to know Son of Heaven, so that the young master could help raise the price of many beast souls. The sacred blood flying beast soul was thus sold at a high price to Lin Beifeng. Because of the appearance of the Mystery Island, Son of Heaven had to buy it back from Lin, who ended up making some money. Such a woman would not invite him to a date for no reason. She must want to discuss with him the sacred blood creature on the Mystery Island. He knew that Holy Angel was gone now, which other people were not aware of, and they were still preparing to hunt the creature. Maybe I can even gain something from this, Han Sen said to himself. However, he was still not sure how Son of Heaven and Huang Fu Pingqing knew each other. Sitting on a rock, Han Sen saw Huang Fu Pingqing approaching. Wearing a half-armor, skirt, and boots, Huang Fu Pingqing's thighs were exposed. Her figure was so attractive that Han Sen swallowed nervously. Little brother Han, have you waited for a long time? Huang Fu Pingqing walked closer to Han Sen, flipping her hair and in a flirty way. Miss Huang Fu Pingqing, you could call me brother, but could you lose the word little? Han Sen asked, a little upset. If you will call me sister, Huang Fu Pingqing said with a smile. After all, what do you need me for? Han Sen changed the subject. I've told you, if you want to go to the Mystery Island, I could lend you my sacred blood wings, replied Huang Fu Pingqing, blinking. No strings attached? He did not believe she was doing this out of kindness. That's hurtful. Just do me a favor and help me hunt the creature on the Mystery Island. How about that? Me? Han Sen looked at Huang Fu Pingqing in surprise. Yes, you can name your price. And even if you want me, I could be yours, Huang Fu Pingqing said sensually. Ahem. With so many impressive guys in the Steel Armor Shelter, why would you think of me? Han Sen continued to ask, ignoring her reply. Although there are many great guys out there, I think you are the best archer I have ever seen. So who else will go, in addition to you and me?
Han Sen asked.
I will not go. There are in total 3 flying beast souls in the Steel Armor Shelter. You will go on my behalf and collaborate with Son of Heaven and Thumb in order to hunt the creature. Other than its beast soul, you could ask for anything else. Sister, if you don't mind me asking, what is the relationship between you and Son of Heaven and Thumb? Can I trust them?
Han Sen asked.
Rest assured, the mother of Son of Heaven is my mom's sister, which makes him my cousin. So, of course you can trust him. As for Thumb, we have paid him, and we know who he is in the alliance. He will not dare to mess up, explained Huang Fu Pingqing. Now Han Sen came to understand the relationship between Ares Martial Hall and Starry Group. He did not really care about this sort of thing. Since Huang Fu Pingqing and Son of Heaven did not know Holy Angel had been killed by him, and Huang Fu Pingqing was seeking his help, it was potentially a great opportunity. What do you need me for, though? I am not really good at combat. All the other 2 guys need is a strong archer. Although I am good at archery, but not as good as you. That's why I want to ask for your help. Let me know if you want something in return, Huang Fu Pingqing said with a smile. Han Sen pretended to think for a while and said, I would like to buy a sacred blood beast soul weapon. Do you still have any available? Han Sen could not forget about the sacred blood 3-blade harpoon. Although the diamond sword was great, it was too eye-catching. And since it was a sacred blood gear rather than a beast soul, it was not that portable. Well, Huang Fu Pingqing pondered. She did have a sacred blood weapon, which was exactly the 3-blade harpoon that was at the auction. Son of Heaven was planted by her at the auction, and the harpoon was actually unsold. To be honest, I still have that sacred blood harpoon. I can sell it to you if you want it. But the lowest price would be 150 million, which is the best I can do, said Huang Fu Pingqing seriously. 150 million. Han Sen thought about it. It was not cheap, but not that expensive either for a sacred blood beast soul. After all, Huang Fu Pingqing owned a company, and a company must make profits. If it was at an auction, it could easily be sold at a better price. In addition, sacred blood beast souls were rare, and sometimes could not even be bought with money. Han Sen thought, I have 60 million in savings. Since SKTS is still a limited edition, the one I won at the Warframe contest could probably be sold at around 70 or 80 million online. Right? I also have a mutant flying beast soul of black feathered beast. With everything sold, I could come up with 150 million. Okay, let's do this. I really need a sacred blood beast soul to hunt sacred blood creatures. If I can gain another sacred blood beast soul, then it will all be worth it. Han Sen gritted his teeth and said to Huang Fu Pingqing, All right, 150 million it is. I will buy the 3-blade harpoon, but I don't have so much money at the moment. If you could wait a couple of days, I will sell something so that I can come up with the money. Why would you sell elsewhere? Have you forgotten what I do? Tell me what you want to sell, and I will offer you a good price for them. Huang Fu Pingqing rolled her eyes. Han Sen told Huang Fu Pingqing what he wanted to sell, and Huang Fu Pingqing appraised his belongings. Their agreement was that Han Sen would use the mutant flying beast soul, the SKTS, and $60 million to buy the 3-blade harpoon. Honestly, I respect you a lot. After they made the deal, Huang Fu Pingqing said to Han Sen seriously. You flatter me, Han Sen paused and said. Huang Fu Pingqing shook her head and said, I did some research on your background. And based on who you were before entering God's sanctuary and what happened to you after, it is impressive that you can become who you are today. Honestly, I have thought that if I were you I would probably still be struggling for life and could never have come up with 150 million to buy a sacred blood beast soul. As thick-skinned as Han Sen, he blushed hearing the compliment. Luck? It was all luck. He was not lying either. If he did not happen to gain the black crystal and the sacred blood black beetle beast soul, he could never have become who he is today. Seeing that he blushed, Huang Fu Pingqing could not help holding his chin and kissed him on the cheek. A man as capable and cute as you is just my type. If you become more powerful, I might really want to become your girlfriend. After getting the 3-blade harpoon, Han Sen had no time to play with it before he was brought to Son of Heaven by Huang Fu Pingqing. Son of Heaven obviously already knew that he would come. The conditions offered to Han Sen were part of the agreement between him and Huang Fu. If it was not for the fact that the Mystery Island would only last for a short time, Son of Heaven would never have agreed to ask for help from Han Sen, let alone offer him benefits. What he did not know was that it was useless to promise Han Sen anything, because the holy angel was already killed by Han Sen. Son of Heaven, Huang Fu Pingqing and Thumb needed to go back to the shelter to prepare. They did not leave anyone on the Mystery Island either, in case that the person would be attacked by Dollar. In addition, they did not believe that Dollar alone could have killed the creature on the Mystery Island, which was why they only sent a team to watch the Mystery Island from the shelter and had no idea that the sacred blood creature had been killed. This time Son of Heaven had spent several hundred million on buying the sacred blood flying beast soul from Lin Beifeng and borrowing a sacred blood shape-shifting humanoid beast soul from Qin Xian, in addition to the price he paid to hire Han Sen and Thumb. All of his efforts were for the beast soul of this sacred blood creature on the island. Han Sen simply took the sacred blood flying beast soul and a sacred blood beast soul arrow Huang Fu Pingqing lent him, and followed all instructions of Son of Heaven quietly. Secretly, Han Sen was amused. Son of Heaven, you've spent so much effort. When you land on the Mystery Island and find the sacred blood creature gone, I wonder how you would look. You can only shoot arrows from afar, and have to stop whenever I ask you to. You will regret it if you try to steal my beast soul again. Son of Heaven looked at Han Sen coldly. Rest assured, I am a professional and know what to do, replied Han Sen calmly. That would be the best. Son of Heaven was not afraid that Han Sen would try to get the last hit. This time, there would be a beast soul for sure, so even if Han Sen had got the beast soul, he would have to give it back. Otherwise, Son of Heaven would have the excuse to kick Han Sen's ass in the alliance. Even Qin Xian and the special squad could not save him. Everything was ready and Son of Heaven took Thumb and Han Sen to fly towards the Mystery Island again. When they arrived at the island, Son of Heaven did not go immediately into the mountain, but let the team rest for half a day so that they were all prepared and energetic. For this humanoid creature's beast soul, Son of Heaven had considered everything. Han Sen did not say a word and simply followed what Son of Heaven said. He was only looking forward to seeing Son of Heaven's disappointment when he found that the holy angel was gone. At last, Son of Heaven led Han Sen and the thumb into the mountain. Where is the sacred blood creature? From afar, Son of Heaven used binoculars to watch the top of the mountain, but did not see the holy angel. Son of Heaven accelerated towards the mountain, but did not see a trace of the creature at all. Feeling reluctant, Son of Heaven circled around the mountain top and asked Thumb and Han Sen to search elsewhere on the island. But in the end, they found nothing. "Dollar, I will kill you." Son of Heaven bristled and gave up in the end. He hated this person even more than he did a murderer. On the way back, Son of Heaven's face was dark. It seemed that his anger had controlled him completely. Han Sen would not provoke him, but was dying with laughter inside. "What took you so long? Did you get the beast soul?" Huang Fu Pingqing, who had been waiting for a long time, saw the three were back and asked hurriedly, "It's gone." Son of Heaven squeezed the words from his teeth. "What do you mean by gone? It is impossible that the sacred blood creature on the Mystery Island did not yield a beast soul." Huang Fu Pingqing did not understand. "The creature is gone. That bastard Dollar must have killed it. I will never forgive him." Son of Heaven looked like he wanted to strangle Dollar to death. It was maddening because Son of Heaven had to spend all the efforts and made all this preparation and did not even see the creature. How is that possible? We have all seen what the creature could do. How could he have done it alone? Huang Fu Pingqing opened her mouth wide in surprise. No one in our shelter could have done this except for Dollar, so it must be him. Son of Heaven's eyes were bloodshot. Huang Fu Pingqing saw Son of Heaven's look and did not say much, because anything she said right now would piss him off even more. She knew very well how much he had paid to kill this creature. Although this kind of spending was nothing to Starry Group, the disappointment was something an arrogant person like Son of Heaven could not take. Han Sen would love to see Son of Heaven losing his temper for a while longer, but since Thumb had walked away, he had no reason to stay. Having returned the sacred blood wings and arrow to Huang Fu Pingqing, Han Sen left as well. Han Sen really liked the sacred blood arrow, but it was something that Huang Fu Pingqing used herself and was not for sale, not to mention he had no money at this point. Back in his room at the shelter, Han Sen summoned the three-blade harpoon and tried it out. He loved how it felt in his hand and could not wait to fight a sacred blood creature with this weapon. "It is time that I go to the Devil Desert again. With this three-blade harpoon, the Sacred Blood Fox King and Black-Feathered Beast King could no longer escape from me." Han Sen was excited. But before he went to the Devil Desert, he had received a message from Qin Xian, who asked Han Sen to see her. Her voice is a bit weird and she did not mention what it was regarding, which made Han Sen feel puzzled. It should not concern the special squad, otherwise she would just say it. Han Sen could not think of anything Qin Xian would need him to do. At the same time, Qin Xian was holding some paperwork and had a strange look on her face. Why would Professor Bai from the St. Hall choose Han Sen? Qin Xian muttered to herself as she read. Qin Xian was no stranger to the St. Hall. Although the St. Hall was part of the military, it had a special status. All departments in the military and even forces outside the military were always watching the St. Hall closely. This was all due to the hyper-geno arts developed by the organization. Even within the military, the licenses used to purchase at the St. Hall were limited. For those who worked at the St. Hall, the control was even tighter. Security clearance would only be issued after extremely strict scrutiny. As a prestigious professor and a maester at the St. Hall, Bai Yishan was one of the leadership team in the St. Hall. Surprisingly, such a big shot as Bai Yishan would like to transfer Han Sen to work for the St. Hall as his assistant. When he contacted the management of the special squad, they were all quite shocked. Feeling equally surprised was Qin Xian. At the same time, she felt more confident about her choice of talent. However, Qin Xian did not want to let Han Sen go. Her original plan was to ask Han Sen to lead the squad after she entered Second God's Sanctuary. Although young Monli was quite capable, she did not have the leadership skills and was inclined to make extreme decisions, which was not helpful to the team. However, Qin Xian did not make the decision yet, as she would like to hear what Han Sen thought. If he would like to go to the Saint Hall, she would not try to stop him. After all, for most people, the Saint Hall meant a bright future.
Kom in.
Qin Xian saw Han Sen was outside her office and said, Han Sen was the biggest gem that she had found in steel armor shelter. He was a little greedy and cowardly, but his growth was faster than she had expected from him. Seeing Qin Xian smiling at him, Han Sen felt a bit scared. Han Sen, you have done well recently.
Qin Xian smiled at Han Sen.
Under your guidance. Han Sen said quickly. Well said. Qin Xian's smile became brighter. This made Han Sen more nervous. He cleared his throat and said, So why have you called me here? So Professor Bai Yishan from the Saint Hall wants you to work as his assistant. Do you want to go? Without further ado, Qin Xian told Han Sen what has happened. A professor from the Saint Hall wants me as his assistant? Han Sen paused and realized that he had nothing to do with the Saint Hall. And Professor Bai was also a stranger. It is many people's dream to work for the Saint Hall, not to mention under Professor Bai Yishan. It is a great opportunity, and you should think about it. Qin Xian grinned. She wanted to make Han Sen her successor, but if he did not want the same thing she did, there was no point in keeping him. What do you think? Han Sen looked at Qin Xian and asked. He felt it was a bit weird, since he had never even heard of this professor. Han Sen was always suspicious of a pie in the sky. Of course, I think the Saint Hall is the great place. The pay is higher than in the special squad, and you will also have the chance to learn lots of advanced hypergeno arts. In addition, you will also be working for Professor Peter, who is an authority. If you become his assistant, you will have a higher status than I do. So, you think I should go?
Han Sen pondererade.
On the contrary, I hope you could stay. Qin Xian shook her head and said, You know that I have high hopes for you. Of course, I wish that you could continue to stay on the squad. In a couple of months, I will become an evolver and enter Second God's Sanctuary. I will recommend you as my successor to lead the squad. All right then, I'll pass and follow you.
Han Sen sighed decisively.
In the Saint Hall, there might be a lot of benefits, but he still sensed something fishy about this. In addition, he was practicing jade skin. If he walked around experts of hypergeno arts all day, they might be able to tell that. Han Sen believed that based on his credentials and knowledge, he was more likely to become a guinea pig in a place like the Saint Hall. He would not go even if Qin Xian did not try to keep him on the squad. And now he was also doing Qin Xian a favor, so that was two birds with one stone. Qin Xian's eyes lit up. She did not expect Han Sen to agree so fast and give up a great opportunity because of what she had said. You're great. I chose the right man. Qin Xian was excited and patted Han Sen on the shoulder. Keep up the good work. Although leading the squad might not be as glamorous now, you would have a harder time at the Saint Hall because of the glass ceiling there. I assure you that you would never regret today's decision. I did not think that far. As long as I can follow you, that's good enough for me, Han Sen said quickly. Qin Xian blushed and the thought of Han Sen's words when she hypnotized him. Well then, I won't keep you here. Watching Han Sen leave, she thought, he was just too young. Otherwise, I might consider him as a suitor. Bai Yishan did some due diligence on Han Senator with his level of security clearance. Bai Yishan could see the classified files and found out that Han Sen was a member of the special squad. This discovery was great news to him, since it was relatively easy for the Saint Hall to transfer someone from the military. Although the special squad were different from ordinary soldiers, it would still be easy to accomplish. However, the reply from the special squad made Bai pause. He frowned and thought. He turned it down. This would create some trouble. If Han Sen was an ordinary soldier, Bai Yishan could simply force his transfer. But since Han Sen was working for Qin Xian, even Bai could not think of a good way to have Han Sen work for him. Since I could not use the official method, I would have to come up with something creative to make him practice Yin Yang Blast. Bai Yishan wouldn't give up and was willing to see Yin Yang Blast being banned. Checking Han Sen's profile again, Bai Yishan was deep in his thoughts. Han Sen went back to the school and dialed Ji Yanran's number. Although he had just gained a Sacred Blood Beast soul weapon, Han Sen did not go hunting because the creature he fed the black crystal to was about to evolve into a Sacred Blood creature. He did not want to go too far in case he could not eat the creature in time. What are you doing? Han Sen saw Ji Yanran in the holographic image and asked with a smile, "Can't you see? I am playing Hand of God." Ji Yanran tried to play cool. "Where are you? I'll go find you right away." E6. If you don't have time, you don't have to come. Ji Yanran continued to play. Be there in 5. Han Sen hung up and went to E6. Ji Yanran thought to herself, had you chosen not to come, I won't forgive you. Hey girl, you're so good at this. Han Sen found Ji Yanran soon. There were better players than Ji Yanran on campus, but only a few, and they either did not want to beat her or did not play on BattleNet at all. It's not fun playing on campus. I'm playing on the Skynet platform. This player's good. He has beaten me 3 times, each time by 10 plus points, said Ji Yanran. Which virtual room are you in? Let me avenge you. Han Sen was ready to sit at one of the holographic equipment. Use my account. Ji Yanran got up and offered him her seat. Han Sen sat down, but pulled her back into his laps. Let go. Ji Yanran blushed and pretended to struggle. Stop. If you leave, how can you see justice served? Hugging her from the back, Han Sen invited that player to continue to play. How can you move like this? If you lose, I will not forgive you, said Ji Yanran. That's not a problem. This is the unevolved section, and I will not lose even with my eyes closed, Han Sen said. Such an egoist, Ji Yanran teased him. This is confidence. If you don't believe that I will win, let's make a bet. If I win, you need to kiss me.
Han Sen låg head.
And if you lose? Ji Yanran curled her lips. If I lose, I will kiss you.
Han Sen sighed shamelessly.
Nice try. Just do well. Ji Yanran pinched Han Sen on the waist, and he let out a cry, attracting the attention of other students. They saw the couple and all smiled ambiguously, making Ji Yanran blush more. Stop it! She covered Han Sen's mouth with one hand and felt a kiss on it. Ji Yanran had to take her hand back, and this time a prompt popped out on the holographic machine, and it said the opponent refused to play again. While the couple were wondering why this player would refuse, they saw a message from him. You must be Ji Yanran from Blackhawk? Seeing the message, Han Sen looked to his girlfriend suspiciously. The latter shook her head and was at loss. The platform randomly matched me with him. I don't even recognize this ID. Could he be from our school? Han Sen checked the ID name, which was quite arrogant, the third hand of God. Just reply to ask if he's from our school. We don't have a lot of players at this level, and I know all of their ID names. This one is not one of them, said Ji Yanran. When Han Sen was ready to reply, he saw another message from the opponent. I am Lu Boitao from the Hand of God Society at Alliance Central Military Academy. My nickname is Three-Handed King. You should have heard about me. Ji Yanran was surprised. The Three-Handed King from the Alliance Central Military Academy is among the top 10 in the Military Academy League. I wonder how he found out about my ID name. No matter how he found that out, I will not let a guy who had his eyes on my girlfriend off the hook easily. Han Sen grinned and sent a message over. I will not make friends with those who are weaker than I. Lu Boitao sent a message back. I have just beaten you 4 times, each time by more than 10 points. And you call that weak? I was eating just now and have just finished, replied Han Sen.
Ah, okay then.
We'll play another round. And let's see what you say when you lose again, said Lu Boitao, sending an invite to fight. Han Sen clicked yes without hesitation and the countdown started. What are you doing? Ji Yanran smiled and asked. Nothing, just to remove all his desires to play the game Hand of God. He has to pay for wanting to steal you, Han Sen said with his eyes narrowed. Ji Yanran did not speak but blushed. She felt sweet at heart and enjoyed watching her boyfriend getting jealous. Lu Boitao was overjoyed. Last year, he watched the promotion videos of the Hand of God societies from all military schools and was stunned by a beautiful female player named Ji Yanran. However, Blackhawk did not compete against the Alliance Central Military Academy and was not even among the top 8. So, there was no chance for him to meet Ji Yanran. Lu Boitao had to ask around to find out Ji Yanran's ID on the Skynet gaming platform. When he wanted to friend her, he found that her privacy setting was set to reject all friend requests. Lu Boitao had almost forgotten about that bummer and was suddenly randomly matched with Ji Yanran today by the system. He did not notice it was her in the beginning and thought his opponents had good techniques. That was when he checked her ID and found out it was Ji Yinran's. Holding back his joy, he beat her a few times to show off his power before he texted her and asked if she was Ji Yinran. Learning it was her, Lu Buotao was even more excited. He was prepared to show her how strong he was, and hopefully he would be able to earn her heart.
Butao.
What are you so happy about? Lu Buotao's teammate and roommate, Liang Yiming asked. Yiming, could you guess who I ran into on the gaming platform? Lu Buotao asked excitedly. The monster from our school, replied Liang Yiming casually. Then I would have cried. Lu Buotao grinned. I ran into Ji Yinran from Blackhawk. Blackhawk? Are there any good players there? The beauty. Do you remember? From that promotion video? Oh yes, I remember that beauty. Didn't she reject to add you already? Are you successful this time? I met her through the random match of the platform. It must be fate, because there are so many people on that platform and I met her, Lu Buotao said contentedly. Are you serious? Such a small chance. Larry walked behind Lu Buotao, started to watch the holographic image. Of course it's true. She already said that if I beat her, she will be my friend. Good for you, then it's a done deal. Liang Yiming saw Ji Yinran's game last year. She was okay, but no match to any of them in the Alliance Central Military Academy, not even the bench players. Exactly. The game has started. I need to focus now, said Lu Buotao. The countdown was over, and the game had started. To show off his strength and chivalry, Lu Buotao did not try to steal the light spots on Ji Yinran's side. He planned to finish off his light spots as soon as possible. However, when the game just started, Lu Buotao saw his opponent's hand reaching over to his side, obviously trying to steal his points. Haha, this beauty thinks too much of herself, trying to steal my points, said Lu Buotao, laughing. You have to let the girl do what she wants. Don't beat her too bad. You need to be a gentleman and leave her a few points. Liang Yiming also laughed. All right, I understand that, said Lu Buotao, reaching toward a spot. When he was about to touch the spot, a finger suddenly crushed it and his opponent gained a point. Well done, you're offering her points early on. Liang Yiming thought Lu Buotao did it on purpose. Had to. Lu Buotao said reluctantly. It was not part of his plan. I should pay more attention. Lu Buotao still thought he was just being careless and reached toward another spot. Before he hit the spot, the finger once again crushed it. Lu Buotao panicked a little as his opponent had beaten him to all the spots he wanted to hit 8 times in a row, leaving him with no point. Buotao, this is a little extreme. The beauty's level is okay. Be careful, or you might even lose. Liang Yiming still thought Lu Buotao was doing this on purpose. Lu Buotao, however, was no longer in the mood to joke around. He was completely focused on the game, with his forehead sweaty. He did not want to let his opponent win, but lost nonetheless. Very soon, Liang Yiming could tell that something was wrong. Blue veins stood out on Lu Buotao's temple, and his fingers were dancing like crazy. Still, no point was gained, and the other hand in the holographic image could always hit the spot first. Liang Yiming widened his mouth. He knew very well how good Lu Buotao was. Although Lu Buotao was relatively weak among the Alliance Central Military Academy players, he would be absolutely the first place in any other military school. However, until now, Lu Buotao still had not gained a single point, which was almost unbelievable. Even Liang Yiming, who was the second place in the Alliance Central Military Academy, did not dare to say that he could do the same to Lu Buotao. Unless the difference between the two players was heaven and earth, this scene would never appear. But it was what was happening at this point. In the 100-point game, the opponent had already gained 80 points, while Lu Buotao still had nothing. At this point, Lu Buotao was covered in cold sweat. His movements became stiff due to too much pressure. The hand of his opponent was like a devil's hand in Lu Buotao's eyes. Helplessness and despair made Lu Buotao cringe. The devil's hand was everywhere. In all kinds of Hand of God games that Lu Buotao had experienced, he had never felt so much despair before. No matter what kind of opponent he used to meet, even if he had lost a lot of points, he would always have some reason to finish the game. However, this game was different. Whichever light spot Lu Buotao wanted to hit, his opponent would always beat him to it.
No accident. No suspense.
Lu Buotao had never thought that he would want to gain 1 point so much. 1 point. All I need is 1 point. As a member of the Alliance Central Military Academy, Lu Buotao was a tough player. Others might have given up at this point, but he was still hanging in there. Soon Lu Buotao discovered how difficult it was to gain a point.
Bang!
The last light spot was crushed and Lu Buotao was dumbstruck. 100-0. The score on the screen made Lu Buotao collapse. Buotao, were you trying to be a gentleman? Liang Yiming asked, uncertain. It did not look like Lu Buotao was doing it on purpose. However, there was no other explanation for Lu Buotao to get a 0 either. Lu Buotao did not reply. Sitting up and staring at the holographic image, he quickly sent an invite to his opponent for another match. His opponent agreed and the game started again. Lu Buotao stared at the holographic image like a monster staring at its prey, gathering all his strength to prepare for a fierce attack. When the game started, Lu Buotao had lost all his confidence under the devil's hand. No way. He could not hit anything. Using all his strength and calculation, Lu Buotao found his speed and strategies useless in front of the devil's hand. That hand was everywhere, and Lu Buotao felt there were a pair of devil's eyes watching his soul as well. No matter which light spot he chose to hit, the devil would always be there first, smashing his hope. No, this is not possible. Lu Buotao felt that the hand was growing in size, taking up all the space around him, and he was becoming smaller and smaller, reduced to a toy.
Bang!
The game had not even ended, but Lu Buotao had already collapsed on his chair, all his confidence and courage gone. Liang Yiming next to him was also soaked in cold sweat. In the second match, he tried to imagine him as Lu Buotao, and soon he became desperate as well, because he found out that he would not be able to hit anything either. It was not Lu Buotao's fault. The opponent acted as if she could read people's mind. Lu Buotao, this is Ji Yanran from Blackhawk? Are you sure this is not an evolver? Liang Yiming could not believe that this person was a military school student. I have no idea. Lu Buotao was not sure either. He looked at his opponent's ID and said, this is her ID, and this is the unevolved section. The evolvers shouldn't be able to enter this part. Liang Yiming heard Lu Buotao's theory and agreed. If his opponent was an evolver, that person would be sent to a different section. But some evolvers who had not yet registered in the Alliance would be able to still enter the unevolved section. So that was a possibility. If this person is unevolved, then it's too scary. Maybe only the monster from our school could be her match, Liang Yiming said. Who are you? Lu Buotao sat up and sent a text to his opponent. Lu Buotao and Liang Yiming both stared at the holographic image, awaiting the reply. In Blackhawk, Ji Yanran was sitting in Han Sen's lap and watching her boyfriend playing with only one hand. Now she knew how she had lost to him on the spaceship. His speed and prejudgment seemed to be beyond what a human could do. From her angle, his dancing fingers were almost like they belonged to a pianist. You scare me. When Han Sen finished the game, Ji Yanran let out a sigh of relief. How? Han Sen whispered into her ear. You left your opponent with no points. Ji Yanran's earlobe became red. He had his eyes on my girlfriend. That was unforgivable. Han Sen saw her cute earlobe and kissed it. Ji Yanran felt electrified and shuddered. At this time, the message from Lu Buotao popped out. Han Sen saw it and replied, I am Ji Yanran's boyfriend. He was claiming his territory. Are you a Blackhawk student? Lu Buotao's message came again. Yes, replied Han Senator. He then exited the platform. With a gorgeous girl in his arms, he was in no mood to talk to a guy. Ji Yanran realized something, and her cheeks became crimson. Looking at her gorgeous face, Han Sen could no longer resist the temptation. Although they were in public and could not go too far, Han Sen enjoyed himself enough. Hey lovebirds, stop showing off like this. Chu Lily suddenly appeared next to them. Ji Yanran immediately blushed and ran from Han Sen. Watching her roommate who was blushing and Han Sen who stood up, Chu Lily smiled. Yanran genius, I did not mean to interrupt you. It's just Ji Yanran has promised me that today she would accompany me to pick a hyper-geno art. And it's past our agreed time.